Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time frame you are where you're listening to this. I am Coach K, aka Jonathan Carford, or Jonathan Carford, aka Coach K, one of the two AKAs. And I just want to say, I'm so excited to have my bald brother from another mother join me today, Mr. Chad Sanderson, the co-founder and minister of Mavericks, which I just saw you added to your description of DeepHumanX, the AI enablement agency. I'm so stoked to have you. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's a blast to talk to you.
Yeah, man. You and I've had the privilege of, we connected several months ago and we've had lots of chats before. So I feel like we're primed and ready for a good meaty conversation, which would be fun. But for those who don't know who you are, what I usually ask guests to do is to tell me about the non-resume, non-LinkedIn version of you. So what have you done in the past? What's been your journey? Why are you going to this crazy AI world? Tell me a bit more about you, and the less resume, the better. How about that?
Yeah. Early on in my career, my background, if you go way, way back, I was born as a marketer and then quickly
Uh,
moved into sales. But as doing the sales thing, I actually transitioned into doing digital transformation. So spent a long time, 10 years plus in the digital transformation space. Got to do some really cool projects with household names from Ingersoll Rand to Verizon, Microsoft. And it was really kind of at the cutting edge, that revolution that happened with the iPhone. And we got to start using machine learning stuff and what people are today calling AI, and had that opportunity. And then after we sold the last company I was at, I transitioned to doing RevOps transformations, right? So it was,
cool.
how do you enable individuals with a repeatable sales process? How do you increase the impact of your client facing individuals? And did big transformation projects there for, the past 7 years. And, AI and the GPT stuff was, at version 2, it was cute. 2.5, it was okay, mildly
It was
amusing,
cute.
right?
It was cute.
It's cute. But then like you have, the moment, 3.5 comes out, and it became very apparent, very clear that there was going to be a massive shift, not only for business, but for individuals who wanted to remain impactful. And the thing that struck me was the speed at which it happened. And my natural curious, never seemed to have enough ways to feed my head self said, let's dive
Right.
deep into this, right? And I started exploring and playing with it, and quickly saw that there was going to be some significant needs in the marketplace. And because I
Yep.
am a person who loves enabling others, my purpose is truly to help other people be successful. That's the juice for me. I mean, yes, I've done enterprise sales, I've done marketing, I've done transformation projects. At the end of the day, when you boil it all away, being able to help other people is really what gets me out of bed in the morning, and there's a
Yeah.
huge opportunity to do it in a way where we could reinvent the concept of a company, do something that was purpose driven, and do it with people that I have mad respect for, have had experience with, and in some cases deeply love and care for. And so we sat down and identified a way that we could go to market and have a positive impact on humanity.
That's cool. What I love about your angle as we kind of dove in is that you really, the focus on the human is just as much a focus on AI. So it's not just, let's throw AI into it. Let's talk about you as your humanity and what AI can do for. I love that angle. So can you tap back, double tap into that
Yeah.
for me?
Yeah. So if you think about it, everybody now, probably most people have probably seen the book Human Plus Machine. And I apologize to the author, I forget the name, but
Yeah.
everybody's probably seen that, or they've heard that phrase, right? Human and machine augmentation. And a lot of people will use it from a marketing term, but if you think about it realistically in business, it's really an equation that needs to be balanced, right? There has to be a new way of thinking about this tech, because AI, and especially generative AI, is not the same thing. It's not your SaaS product that's linear based. It
Yeah.
runs on patterns. It's mirrored after the way the human brain works. So it reacts to the way you approach it. And based on my experience doing big change transformations, critical thinking and self-awareness have been in, let's say, massive need and not much supply for a
Mhm.
while. And so when we look at it, we want to be able to make sure that companies, organizations, individuals, and teams can balance that equation so that they can up level the
Yes.
human side of it, so that you get the unrivaled potential and possibility by effectively activating that AI augmentation. Too many companies at this point look at the AI and they go, oh, I can make this widget spin faster. Okay, natural productivity, you're used to it. It's an old playbook. How do I
Right.
get the productivity, stuff up? But that's just like looking at a car and saying, hey, I can put a supercharger on it and it'll go faster. Great. Okay. Normal technology allows you to do that. This is transformational tech that instead of looking at it and saying, oh, I'm going to make my car go faster, you have the opportunity to reimagine conveyance. And what does it mean to get from point A to point B? And how can I get there? And that
Mhm.
requires a really balanced application of both the human and the AI element in order to achieve those types of outcomes. And the research shows, and there was an article in Nature Human Behavior that came out last year that showed there is an optimal balance of what it means to effectively augment. That if you have too much human and not enough AI, or too much AI and not enough human, you don't get the optimal results. There's a sweet spot. And in
Yeah.
order to do that, you also have to ensure companies don't over rotate reliance on AI, because now we're seeing the research that says it erodes critical thinking even more. And so
Yeah.
we worked to take all of our, combined 50 plus years of transformation experience to create a new way of thinking, a new model of thinking that is repeatable for organizations to be able to balance that equation, upskill their employees, and hopefully reinvent, reinnovate, come up with things that they hadn't thought possible before.
There's so many I could go down so many paths and just say it's awesome.
And
So,
we don't go small. We don't go small.
yeah, we go small. Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday about the whole critical thinking thing. I think it was on an interview, but they're asking me like, do you feel like people are getting worse or better with critical thinking? I said, I'm getting better. Like I'm way more critical thinking now than I was before. However, it's easy if you're lazy with AI to become lazy with critical thinking. I can see how that could be a natural consequence, but for
Yep.
me, I see the opposite benefits of being super critical because I've
Well,
trained
but
it
let's
for
give
it,
yourself some credit, right?
So
Like you have a naturally curious mindset. You're intellectually curious. You're intellectually engaged. You are self-aware based on the conversations that we've had. What I would say is if you look at like over the last 8 years, and the reason that for me it became such an imperative was if I look at the last 8 years of working with names of and companies that everybody would know, where we've
yeah.
trained their global sales forces, or even, banking industry, I have seen a drastic decline in what I would consider that median critical thinking. Like it just has decreased. Now, part of this isn't individuals' faults. We've put technology in their hands and built it so it's slightly addictive. You can't, seem
Mhm.
to focus. Attention spans are decreasing. And the challenge becomes there are a set of people, yourself, I think, fall into this category, that naturally apply that curiosity, that critical thinking. But
Right.
the big swath of employees and people that are working out there are not used to that self-awareness and critical thinking application that's going to be necessary to keep the human in the loop as we continue to do the AI stuff. So I think there's an opportunity to help everybody. And unfortunately, however you feel about it, the education system hasn't done a real good job teaching people how to think.
Oh, no, sad but true. It's very sad but true. You mentioned before the research between the balance. I know that I have heard about it. I've not seen this, so I need to have you share with me. I'll make sure we put in the show notes so people can read it
Yeah,
too.
I'll shoot you the
So,
link. Yeah, it
yeah.
was an article that came out. Like I said, Nature Human Behavior, and don't hold me to the numbers. I'm close, but I'm
Okay.
not going to
It's
say it's
fine.
accurate.
Yeah.
In the article, they had basically taken 168 previous studies on human machine augmentation. And they looked at, was there, their assumption at first was more AI was better, more automation was better. But what they found was that there actually is this common thread, this common balance that needs to happen. And in
Yeah.
order to do it, the line in there that stuck with me because it resonated and backed up what we've been saying is that it will be just as important to innovate new ways of thinking as there will be to innovate the technology. And
Mm.
that is essentially the call that DeepHumanX is answering by creating the relevance model and helping organizations implement it. But I'll shoot you the link so you can include it in the show notes.
Okay, I got to show you something. This totally has to do with this topic. So I did the first this year. I did a survey of 275-ish GTM people,
Yep.
and from the data, I've been going through the analysis. So I'm going to show this because it has to do with this topic
Okay.
of where we're at, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are because this has been fascinating. Hopefully, you can see this. Do you see this? Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yep.
This is one of the things I found, which was the too overload. When is too much become reduced? So like it looked like from the data, which was what I had, which is obviously not expensive, but when it goes up to 4 is the ideal, and it goes down to 5 and it gets more than that, it becomes less than productive, which is
Yep.
fascinating. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to ask myself because I use way more than 4. I'm like, maybe I'm on the bench because there's a lot more than 4 tools. But it's fascinating from a normal point of view, that would be the case. Like it goes up and comes down. I never would have thought about it before, you know?
And even you and I, like in some of the exchanges we've had where we've been playing with the agent stuff, it's,
Yeah.
you really got to understand kind of what task you're trying to automate, what, how does it go into it? There's some critical thinking that goes into that too. But at some point I can see getting lost in the tech or over reliance on it, and the output is not optimal and the productivity enhancement is not optimal. So I'm not surprised. And with all of the tools that that's out there, I mean, I don't know how many you're up to now. I've got so many folders of bookmarks.
I got a lot.
Chrome browser.
I got a lot.
I get lost in them.
I have the ones I like, the ones that are like Chrome extensions now, because like I literally found one where it's a reader. So like it uses 11 labs, but it reads text. Like it's awesome because I can sit here and work on something and I can pop open like a deep research article from ChatGPT on something. I'll just read it to me as I work. It's awesome. So I don't have to sit here, I can do something else and just listen, Yeah. So stuff like that.
So one of those that I'm using is Harpa. Have you seen Harpa AI?
I love Harpa.
Harpa's amazing. It's
so awesome.
Now I did notice that it required me to let's say adjust some of the ways that I would normally interface with some of the other, browser-based types of things. But once you make that little tweak, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Harpa I found, when did I find that? A while ago, but I've had it forever and I freaking love it so much. It's so cool. But for those who don't know, describe what do you do with Harpa? Describe it and then what do you do with it?
So Harpa basically it's a plugin into Chrome. It's a side panel, right?
Yeah.
And you can choose which model it uses, so you can really tailor it. It's got a whole host of automated / commands that you can use. So you can automate kind of your workflow in a very agile way. It's a great research assistant, pulls up information when you need it. You can actually have it read your screen if you want to give it that type of authority.
Yep.
It becomes like this is going to date me, but it becomes like an actually useful Clippy. If anybody remembers the Microsoft Clippy crap that we had to deal with for years, this is much more of an iterative, informative, valuable kind of tool that I've been using on the regular right now.
I'm curious what you do, because I'll tell you a couple of things I do with this. So one is like being able to chat with the website. So I can just have chats on whatever, which I love. 2 would be extracting data specifically from an SEO or marketing perspective. So I can suck out data out of a website like competitors.
Yeah.
And 3 would be YouTube. So I use it a lot with YouTube where I can get a transcript and chat with a transcript on it, which is awesome,
the number one use case for me in terms of like pulling the YouTube stuff down and then giving it to someone that'll read it to me while I'm, doing the honeydew list.
That's cool.
Whatever, that kind of stuff is a game changer.
Yeah, that's cool. I want to go back to what you said before about the whole transportation thing, because I said the same thing as somebody else. Is I feel like that, like you said, they put a supercharger on a car and you're like, but we're building airplanes. We're not building cars, And it's totally transforming everything we do. So some things you do the same, like you'll still be sitting in a plane like you'd sit in a car, but it's a way different experience. 30,000 up in the air going who knows how long, fast, and all this other stuff, and requires different technology and safeguards and process and all this other stuff. But it requires, anytime I teach a class at Bryant, I always tell them, you're used to driving a car. I'm going to try and teach you how to drive a plane. And it's not the same,
It's not the same.
So I'm curious, like when you have someone like business owners or teams, you go into your consulting, you try to do transformation and they're in this car mentality. How do you have them shift to start thinking like, this is a different world? What do you do to take them through that transformation process mentally? Because that's to me, the first hurdle,
It is, it's a big one, right? Because eventually you have a couple of people, and what will typically happen as you're talking to somebody, once they are open enough to really start to hear and understand what's happening, you have to keep them away from cognitive stall. We call it the OF moment, where they realize, oh, it's different. It's different.
Fuck.
And the brain shuts down, their face goes slack, and you're double checking they're not having a medical event. Right. One of the ways to get them through that is the process. Like in our relevance model, we talk a lot about lessening the define. And so there's these questions that we've structured that you can kind of just conversationally ask someone that allows them at their pace to go on a journey to get to where they need to be in order to start the change, right? And so one of it is just getting rid of your assumptions and really taking a moment to think about the assumptions that you have. The old exercise that some of your audience probably has heard of is tell me how you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And then the question becomes, okay, what kind of bread are you using? I didn't think about that. Where did you get the knife? I didn't think about that. So you've got to really break down and bring them out of their kind of comfort zone of the assumptions are built in. They're so built in that they're not even aware they're there. You
Right.
have to find a way. And when we execute our workshops, that's one of the first things we start to do is help the organization, the teams, the people in there get rid of the assumptions that are being prohibitive to their potential acceleration.
Yeah. What I find fascinating is like when you have, I don't know how to describe this, but both the aha OF moment and then the, ooh, this is cool. Like that part of it
Yeah,
is such a cool thing, but it's uncomfortable for people. Like when they start
it is.
going down the path of like the potential of what could happen,
Yep.
that's the part I think is just fascinating. So I'm curious from a leadership standpoint, is the conversation you're having with leaders around replacing people is about operationalizing things? Like is more on AI product? Like where do you find most leaders are going their usual track? And do you shift them when they go there? What do you see?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we've got to get them to a point where they're comfortable, but aware. And so when I say awareness, it's, you and I can have conversations in a way that myself and maybe somebody who isn't as steeped in the AI space can have, because we share that context and we both enjoy going down the rabbit hole, right? And we apply the critical thinking to understand what the trends are, and we're reading all that information. But when you're
Mhm.
talking to somebody who maybe for the first time, or maybe their only experience has been, hey, I opened up ChatGPT, I asked it a couple questions and I've never used it again. You have to help them go through this realization journey. And the most effective way that I have found to do it is pay very close attention to the physical reaction that someone is having. Change in facial expression. Do they start to, I have a tendency when I'm really processing stuff, I rock back and forth, like very
So do I.
subtly, but I rock back and forth.
So do I.
No,
You're reading my
right?
body language now. Let people do that. Now I'm nervous.
I'm mirroring you right now. Well, yeah, so it's that, really pay attention to it, because you don't want them to go fully cognitive stall. You really don't. And
Right.
when we talk to a lot of leaders today, the initial thought process, the initial thing that happens, because it's such an ingrained playbook, is I can drive productivity with less people. It's I want more output with less input. And I get it, right? I get it. It's like spinning that wheel faster. I understand why a lot of leaders start there, but you need to take a beat for a minute and you need to really think about this, because it isn't just as simple as getting rid of bodies. Although we are unfortunately seeing that in pretty significant numbers. There were announcements even this week that were kind of surprising to see.
Which one are you talking about? Can I ask?
Workday, the Workday
Oh,
announcement.
Workday,
Yeah. So Workday, I mean, if you go back over the last 3 weeks, you got Workday, we had Salesforce, there was a Microsoft announcement. Like they're just
Meta,
3000 and Meta. Yeah. So it's happening, right? And what I will say is, if I go back a year, when we were talking, I mean, only just a year ago, so 2024.
It feels like a lifetime in AI time, man. It feels so long.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I remember everybody saying, there was one event I was at, and there was a CRO of a healthcare organization that I won't mention, who was on stage saying, hey, we're investing in AI and we're looking at AI, but not to replace humans. We don't want to replace humans. And to me, that was the equivalent of greenwashing. You're telling me my broccoli's organic, but then I get the callback that it's got E. coli and I'm going to die. Let's be honest. And so we've gotten to the point where everybody should be aware at this point, there will be displacement. Like, it's natural when you have this type of revolution, but there's opportunity, right? There's unparalleled opportunity. The difference this time is twofold. And that's helping the leaders understand the speed at which this is happening is like nothing we've ever seen before in any of the previous tech revolutions. And the second one is, it's not just about the tech. It has to include your understanding of how your organization is structured, how people operate within that structure. Are they empowered? Are they enabled? Are they equipped with the right skills? Because at the end of the day, I love the idea of an AI agent organization where, it's got $1 billion valuation and there's only 2 people in the company. But at some point, you're creating your own echo chamber and you miss out on that collaborative innovation that happens when people get together and really are able and equipped to increase that creativity and that innovation cycle.
Right.
So when we work with leaders, it's about, really tactically take a beat, have a couple conversations, sleep on it 1 or 2 nights, not for like weeks, because you don't really have that kind of time, but at least a couple nights. And think about it, because the decisions that you instantly make today, thinking with the old playbook, could result in I don't know, a scenario where you're trying to hire back a whole bunch of people you accidentally cut and you lost their emails, like perhaps an administration is experiencing right now. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
So
There's yeah, this whole thing is fascinating. I have two thoughts. One of which is like we think about the impact of electricity and machines, right?
yeah,
Going from horse and buggy and lanterns to cars and electricity. Like those that happened over 30, 40 years. Like we're seeing
yeah,
the same transformation in 2 or 3,
yeah.
Like that much change that fast is it's no wonder that even the experts in the field are saying, I can't keep up with AI, so don't feel bad if you can't either. It's
I
like
mean,
stuff happening.
but
You know?
think about it. So electricity, 30 years to drive to the adoption curve and proliferate.
Right.
You look at the internet and it took, I mean, after 2 years, according to the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics, after 2 years, it was only at roughly 22% adoption. We got the new report last fall and the AI adoption is at 41% in 2 years. That's double. And you're seeing the order
Wow.
of magnitudes of improvement that used to take a decade to achieve, which gave people time to adjust, being achieved in months at this point. And
Right.
that's without even factoring in the quantum computing that's around the corner and all that
That
stuff.
is
Like,
crazy. So
that's
scary.
where you're just
Yeah.
like, all right, I don't know. It's a good thing I don't have any hair because I'm not gonna have to hold on to it.
Dude, when I saw that thing about was it Google? Who had this supercomputer that did whatever thing in like what it would have taken years, they did in a half hour or something. I
Oh
can't remember
yeah,
what it was. It was
I mean, the
nuts.
quantum computing stuff is crazy. And then you've got the Majorna, I
Yeah.
think it's pronounced Majorna, the chip from Microsoft coming out. They're all investing in these quantum computing chips, which is I
It's
mean,
crazy.
it's almost difficult to comprehend, but it's just almost difficult to wrap your head around it.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things, which is on the same vein. When you think about of all the teams you talk about, or I should say talk to, and they have to be prepared mentally for the change and they have to be prepared data and all the other things you have to do. Of all the people you talk to, how many are you feel like really ready? And then how many of them are not ready? And if they're not ready, what should you suggest they do to be ready? How about that?
Yeah, all right. So if we talk, let's just do it with round numbers so my small little brain can keep up. So
Sure.
if you say in the last 2 months, let's just say, I mean, I know I've had more, but let's say I've had 100 conversations with people,
Sure.
leaders of SMBs to enterprises to entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, you name it. I
All over.
probably talked to some of them. I
But-
would say out of every 100, there's probably 4 that are truly ready, There's
Sounds
probably
about right.
yeah, it's not where we want. It's not where we want it. That's been my experience so far. There's probably 15 on top of that. So you're roughly, getting close to 20, let's say total, you're looking 20, 25, 26 that have done some exploration and have enough foundation that they'll be okay, but they may not be up to speed on it. Then there's the rest kind of breaks into 2 categories. Those that have played with it or say, oh, I use a GPT, I use ChatGPT,
Yeah.
this,
I
and
use
do that.
ChatGPT.
And basically what they're saying is I'm using ChatGPT as a search engine, which is completely not designed for, but
Right.
even with the search functionality, which is kind of cool, but it's not the same as typing something into Google. You're dealing with a context window and there has to be this understanding how it works. And then I would say there's still 10 to 15 people I run into on a regular basis that are just like, I don't know. I literally don't even know where to start. And so regardless of where you are out of that 100, the first thing I would recommend is you've got to find an anchor. You've got to find a community. You've got to find people that you can surround yourself with. It is going to become increasingly important to have collective intelligence, to tap into collective intelligence. There's no way one person's going to have all the answers, and there's no way that even a small group is going to be able to figure it out. You need a group of trusted people, like-minded, aligned on values, whatever you want, that are all keeping pace, trying to pay attention so that you can, symbiosis, share the information and help level set. So first and foremost, find a community, whatever that may be. You've got one, I've got one, they're out there. Find a community where they're focused on it and that shares that, alignment and purpose value. Second, get rid of the fear. Get rid of the hesitation and get rid of, for those of you who think, oh, I played with ChatGPT and I know how it works. No, get real with yourself and start looking at stuff. Don't be afraid of the tech, use it. Find something that's going to help you get more current with what's going on. You don't have to worry about accelerating at the same pace as all the changes, but you need to at least start paddling out, because if you don't start paddling out, you don't have a chance of the wave not crushing you at the end of the day. And the other one is to really work on your mindset. This is figure out where you are, what your purpose is, figure out what patterns you're running, increase your self-awareness, understand what's happening with you, and then align that in a way that's going to make you effective in continuing to augment yourself. Once you get to that point, it isn't about expertise on AI. It isn't about expertise in tech. It's about figuring out how you adapt and embody an agility mindset. You've got to be agile moving forward.
I have two thoughts. One, I want to comment on the used AI every day. I hear people say that, and I'm like, you drive every day, but you're not a NASCAR driver. I mean, just because you say you drive it, that doesn't tell me anything,
Yeah.
And every time
I don't know about where you're
me,
at, but here, man, I would question whether or not they drive at all.
I know. I'm like, I think you're really just in an Uber and you think you're driving, it's not even driving. But, and the other thing is, I want to make sure that before you go, I want to make sure you talk about what kind of services you guys offer from your agency and what could people expect and who you like to work with, because I want to make sure you know what that is if people want to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is, honestly, I believe the biggest opportunity out there right now for organizations is in the SMB space, at least from an organizational standpoint. I think if they are effectively activating their AI augmentation, they have the ability, through their lack of rigid structure, or let's say more flexible structure, to reinvent themselves in ways that will allow them to leapfrog some of their largest competitors. So we have a tendency to work with, we've talked to startups and stuff like that, but 25 million, 30 million in revenue up to $500 million is usually kind of where we fall. You get over, and when you get closer to the end of that spectrum, they get more rigid. So as you go across that threshold, in those situations, we're better off working with teams, an operations team, a strategy team, an HR team, a sales enablement team, to help them embrace this internally and then be able to push it through their organization effectively. It isn't like we're just looking at tech companies. We're talking to tech companies. We're working with banks. We're working with manufacturers. I mean, it's across the board, because everybody will at some point be impacted by it. But for us, everything we do is tailored. It's a custom learning journey that's designed to equip the organization to have a model for rapid innovation, change resilience, increase your team's critical thinking, but apply it to current business issues so you can drive short-term impact and establish the long-term resiliency in your employee base that will make sure they remain relevant for your organization as you go forward. So for us, it's online learning, workshops. We do assessments that can show you where the gaps are in the skill sets, and then help you own your own future so you can become AI augmented, human enhanced, and purpose driven.
Yeah. I can say, if I can vouch for you, both from a transformation training world. I mean, you've worked with some of the biggest businesses in the world. You've done this for a while, so I can vouch for you there. And then from an AI perspective, what I love about you is that you're someone who I look at, and this is going to sound cocky, and I don't mean this way, as a peer, and I don't get that very often, because you're always pushing me with stuff, because you say, hey, check this out. You see this, that. I love when people are running the same pace as me and keep up with me, or I should say, I feel like I have to keep up with you, which is a good thing. I like feeling pushed,
I'm glad it's a valuable thing, because I always find myself, every time I'm about to shoot you a message, I'm like, wait, when was the last time I messaged him? Am I going to be that annoying little cousin that he wants to kick to the curb? Oh, cool. Because
I love it.
I feel the same way. I can ask you a question with a sentence or two sentences, where if I'm asking somebody else, it's going to take me 5 minutes to explain the context, or 2 paragraphs in an email. And I'm like, I'm just going to go ask Jonathan. Let's have a conversation about it, because we're both in that same deep end of the pool.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's very refreshing, and popping into your community and see what you're doing there. I love what you're doing. Like, we have different communities, but I always tell people they're parallel. So I have told people about you. I'm like, he does things a little bit differently than I do, but it's good. We need, like you say, what I love about you say, and I agree with you, is we need different voices to talk about from different angles what's happening, because my voice is different than yours, and that's good. Like, we need to have different thoughts,
No one person's going to have the answer. So you need to create space to hear different voices, different perspectives, because this thing is too big and moving too fast. And the more, the future isn't interdependence of business, it's interconnectedness. And I truly believe that. And because of the way the AI curve is being driven, the individuals are driving it. All those companies that you think you've told people they can't use AI, they're using it. Whether they're using it well or not is another conversation. But
they're the question,
BYO AI.
I just want to say thank you so much. For people to find you, obviously I'll get the LinkedIn and your website, but just make sure people here, it's DeepHumanX.com. Yes?
Yep. .com.
.ai. .com. Okay. I'll make sure I have your LinkedIn link and then obviously the URL there too. And then send me that research. I'll make sure you attach it as well. But
Yeah, I'll send you the research, and I'll also send you for your community coupon codes for the online stuff that we
Cool.
did make accessible to individuals. Even though
Love
we
it.
are a B2B company, we put it up so individuals can access it, but I'll send you that stuff.
All right. I love it. I'll take it, man. I know they would love it. Just want to say thank you. And from a personal, I just appreciate your energy and your space. And you always bring value. And it's going to sound weird, but a kind intelligence that is, like you said, I feel
Thank
pushed
you.
by you in a good way, so I just want
Thanks,
to say
man. I
thank you.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And because you're bald and so we're brothers. So,
Yeah, we have the same
So-
barber.
It's St. Barber. But I just want to tell you, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me on.